Yeah, hello to everybody, and hello firsthand to Tatiana Minayeva. It's great that you share your expertise, your time with us in presenting your talk today within the PEAT talk program. As Pia said, we are shifting between German and English language according to the presenters, and so it's as well an international format. I would like to present Tatiana briefly with her scientific background. Tatiana Minayeva graduated from the Lomonosov Moscow State University with a degree in geobotany. She earned her PhD in the Komarov Botanical Institute in St. Petersburg and defended her doctoral thesis in the Tuzin Botanical Garden of the Russian Academy of Sciences. She was working as a researcher and in the early 2000s switched to nature management in the Russian government, later in international NGOs such as WWF and Wetlands International, which maybe are NGOs well known in our audience here. Her focus was from the beginning wetlands restoration and management and reporting to international conventions, which is really a very important topic for guiding as well some political international decisions, including the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, the Climate Convention with focus on the LULUCF sector and the Arctic Council. 2009, Tatiana left Russia and worked at the headquarters of Wetlands International in the Netherlands and since 2015 in Germany at the scientific consultancy Care for Ecosystems. And here in the bottom of her first slide, you see the logo of Care for Ecosystems. She worked on peatlands in European Russia, West Siberia, Sakhalin, the Russian Arctic, Canada, Central and Western Africa, Mongolia and Peru. And that's about the talk of today, Mongolia and Peru. Well, we know each other since a long time. It is really impressive, Tatiana, your scientific work, your published records, but overall your willingness to push peatlands in the right direction. And we hope we hear a lot about that, how difficult and how brilliant it is to work with Peruvian and Mongolian peatlands. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthias. Do you hear me? Yeah, my mic is on.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay, great. So thank you everybody to join. Yeah, this is quite exciting experience that I would like to share with you today. Here is my talk outline. I aim to 50 minutes, but possibly it will be 60. But as we have 1.5 hours, so I think this is okay. Yeah, you see the outline, and usually I start my talks with a little bit of policy to explain the context, why we are doing this, what we are doing, and how. What are the incentives? When I was teaching in Russian universities, the Moscow University and Khanty-Mansiysk University, I also had held the course of the international affairs in the environmental and nature conservation. So that's why, you know, this I have this old habit. So, and I would like to tell my acknowledgements to the colleagues with whom we are now implementing the project in Peru and Mongolia. First of all, Wetlands International Global Office in cooperation with Green Choice, Wetlands International Latin America in Argentina, Wildlife Science and Conservation Center in Mongolia, ECOAN organization in Peru, and the Bush Doctor in Australia. So what are the policies which are behind the ecosystem or wetlands, more narrow wetlands restoration? Let's start with the national legislation and sectoral regulation. Actually, this is the oldest one. Yeah, this is the oldest one, but not here in Europe, but in the United States. So it was impressive that the mitigation law in United States started to work in actually 65 already, when everybody who was destroying wetlands had to give some funds to the special, like it was wetland mitigation banking, the term was, to some fund from which then later organizations can get money to restore this wetland, or they can restore the other wetland for this money now, and later this wetland will be restored by later investments. So this was absolutely a remarkable thing, national legislation. Later in 72, it became the Article 404 of the Clean Water Act. And in 2022, we celebrated like 50 years of this Clean Water Act. Yeah, there was some problems with this. For example, they very often restored not wetlands, but as we call it, ducklands. So the ponds instead of peatlands. But anyhow, it was really a great movement, and it also very much worked in connection with business. So that's why this first mitigation compensation, yeah, that was mostly rehabilitation, but it was moving to the ecosystem restoration, towards ecosystem restoration. And actually that's why the Society for Ecological Restoration was first was first organized in the United States. So the second, what we have, this is the attempt for the monetization of ecosystem services. So actually, the most successful for that was the carbon market. The ecosystem services are on the agenda already like 20 years. When the Convention of Biological Diversity declared as also as a method for management, nature management. But still, there is no market mechanism for all ecosystem services. Yeah, but there is carbon market, so it is one of the ways. The other level is international conventions. We have at least 4 international conventions which refer to ecosystem, also wetlands, and also peatlands directly restoration. Yeah, this is the Convention on Biological Diversity and Ramsar Convention, which are calling countries to restore wetlands and peatlands as nature conservation. And for nature conservation, yeah, as the habitats. And the United Nations Convention on Combat Desertification, they have so-called landscape neutrality concept. And this is the way how they want countries to report to the convention, to show that the landscape which were destroyed, the same amount of landscape were restored. Yeah, it is not working so smoothly, but at least it is in over there. And the Climate Convention, we know, has the large part currently of the nature-based solutions as a part of both mitigation and adaptation, and ecosystem restoration and wetlands and peatlands restoration is exactly there. And the national reporting on the inventory of the greenhouse gases sources and sinks actually includes land use sector. And the guidelines for the national reporting also guide countries how to do this. And this is the incentive to restore these ecosystems. in order to report, to include them in national reporting, both for mitigation and adaptation. So the next, this is the the regional legislation. Yeah, we all heard about the European Nature Restoration Law that European Commission adopted. There was a lot of the discussions on it, and actually, when we speak about the climate convention, we see that climate convention shows that the ecosystems, also wetlands and peatlands, are like the mechanism to mitigate and to adopt. This is not restoration for peatlands or wetlands or other ecosystems. This is restoration for the purpose, yeah. So we don't restore it because we are so kind and so nice, yeah. That we are like ecosystems and we want be green and we want them to restore, yeah. They are more like on the ground. The national American legislation does the same, yeah. The global reporting initiative, which I didn't mention before, but it's written here, yeah. So it's also bringing together business to somehow develop the regulations and the standards how to restore ecosystems and report, but not because they are they like peatlands and wetlands. No, because they know that there is this is the end of the resource, yeah, and the resource should be restored. So, and actually, Society of Ecological Restoration also was serving these needs. The European Nature Restoration Law was drifting back to Greens, and that is why that's why it was so difficult, because we were saying, now you all give us your lands and we will make them natural. Yeah, it doesn't work. Yeah, so you can restore within the LIFE program, you know, like give people money, make the pilot project, restore. We will see later why this problem it is coming. So that's why actually the European Nature Restoration Law, what is missing? Missing good incentives, yeah, and good mechanism for incentives. And the last, I mentioned here this United Nations Decade of Ecosystem Restoration and Global Landscape Forum. Actually, this is such a awareness mechanism. Yeah, it doesn't give any framework. Yeah, just support awareness and, for example, because the United Nations and Society of Ecological Restoration had developed some standards. So if you want to know more about these nature-based solutions and incentive for them, in our webpage of IPCSDG, there's a lecture, the whole lecture, like 45 minutes about this. Okay. So, and as we are in Germany, yeah, so let's look what Germany has about this. Actually, almost nothing. Not much available in German legislation to support nature-based solutions and restoration. Possibly when they start to work for the nature restoration law, and they started already the competence center and this and this, but there's a large gap in legislation in Germany about this. Okay, so, and to work and to make these projects as a part of carbon market or whatever market, yeah, of ecosystem services market, or which doesn't exist, as I told, or to make it reportable for the climate convention or for the mitigation legislation, like in the United States, if, for example, Germany decides to have one. So then you need standards. Yeah, and let us look which standards are available. Standards, why we need standards? We need to assess assess how we deal with this project. Yeah, if you are doing live project, okay, the maximum what you have to do to report to EU bureaucrats and be nice to Jan Sliva, who will come to your place and check your project, yeah, as inspector. So, actually, yeah, I'm of course making it a little bit maximize this, but really the reporting is not so standardized. The criteria are not so strict like in the standard if you want to go to the carbon market. Yeah, so it is a little bit more loosey. But let us look what we can use. So we have IUCN Global Nature-Based Solution Standard. They have like 8 criteria, 128 indicators, but it doesn't include external evaluation. So it is like based on self-assessment. And what I'm missing in this standard for the assessment of restoration project by IUCN standard, it is the criteria on the scientific background quality and the restoration quality. So this is the IUCN standard. A gold standard is trying to apply it for certification, but I actually don't know if there are any projects with gold standard. Society of Ecological Restoration developed developed the standard of practice to guide ecosystem restoration. And it was as contribution to this United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. So it is very fresh, 24, and it's good document. So I really advise people who are doing a restoration project to look at this. This is good standard. I don't know if we can use it for the carbon market or ecosystem services market, but for sure it could be used for the businesses for sustainable reporting or to report on the legislation or convention. Yeah, I think that this is good standard. So UN Global Compact, this is the organization which is uniting the businesses, yeah, the corporates, that they have the corporate rules on the restoration and so deal with this. They call for businesses to apply nature-based solutions. They make some sort of address, so some climate change manifesto. So, and but it is very general. So gold standard, they certify carbon credits and they use the carbon credits to fund the green projects focused on the climate. But yes, they have quite many standards. But so the standard is one, I mean methodologies. Yeah, the standard is gold standard, and they have some methodologies, but they are focused on the separate ecosystems. Yeah, so they don't have the landscape thinking. By the way, in Society of Ecological Restoration Standard, there's a landscape element, which is also very good. Yeah, so they don't have landscape approach. They focus the same like Vera, just on the like forests, grasslands, peatlands. No, peatlands they don't have. The wetlands, but ecosystem focused. And Vera, the most popular standard to people who are going to the voluntary carbon market. It has several programs like carbon market program, the climate community biodiversity CCB, which is quite old, 2011, and now they also launched Sustainable Development Verified Impact Standard as the so-called as the Vista, which looks nicer and more comprehensive and more realistic than CCB. Yeah, so again, the same. Various standards are focused on ecosystems and or land use. So it is either the agriculture or it is grasslands, forests, peatlands, tropical, and so this is what we have for our work. And now several words about the landscape. Yeah, you remember that my presentation is called that we try to implement landscape approach in these two pilot projects that Wetlands International is doing with Green Choice in Mongolia and Peru. And I just demonstrate this on the example of Europe. Yeah, so of course this is not European landscape. This is artificial intelligence landscape, but just to demonstrate the problem. Yeah, so during 15 years, last 15 years, the LIFE program is working. They managed to restore 42,000 hectares of peatlands in the European Union. Yeah, so not in Europe even. Yeah, just in European Union, because we remember all that Europe goes to the Urals. Yeah, so. And 33,000 is within protected areas in Europe, in the European Union. So actually in Europe, up to Urals, is 600,000 square kilometers of peatlands, yeah, a little bit more than this. And within EU countries, this is like 27 million hectares. And according to the nature restoration law, we have to restore until 2030, 30% of peatlands. Yeah. So if we go to this way, how we are going now, looking for the huge peatland landscape, like in the Netherlands or the North Germany, yeah, and looking for the large areas, first of all, they are all under use, yeah. So, and you have to struggle like 5 years to sort out all land issues. And when you sort it, you can restore this, like, I don't know, from 200 to 1,000 hectares, yeah, really large area. And actually, we don't have time for that. Yeah, and it's has not many perspectives. Yeah, so reason one to apply the landscape approach is no more large peatlands to restore available. Yeah, and at least in European continent. So, and that's why it is wise to place peatland back to the landscape, yeah, because we always were running around and saying, oh, peatlands, they are so unique, we have to treat them separately, we have to treat them specifically, you know, and they are like pearls, they are Cinderellas, and there's this and that, yeah. Yeah, I also was doing this, okay. So it was fashion. But now it is absolutely in the air, and I also hear this people are telling this on the conferences. Yeah, let us place peatlands back to the landscape. They should be in the landscape, and then we can see the peatlands in the highlands. Yeah, the very small peatlands. Yeah, in the Piedmont. Sorry. Yeah, so we can see smaller peatlands in the other landscape, in the plain. We can see the peatlands along the river in the very actually narrow stripes along the rivers. Yeah, so, and we can see that some of the reservoirs and ponds, you know, I live in the Lausitz, yeah, in Saxony, so they will kill me, yeah, because they are fans of these ponds, yeah, and I always see that they did these ponds on the place of peatlands, yeah, maybe even some ponds could be restored, yeah, to back to the peatlands, so something not like we are accustomed to do, to go to the farmer who has like 3,000 hectares of peatland and say, give us half. No, you look at these small things, you find them, and it will lead to the same effect due to the synergy. Because this small landscape, small peatlands in the landscape, if you make special planning properly, you will get the same result. And also it allows for diversification of incentives. So some wants to do it because it is like the part of the water catchment. The others, you immediately get different stakeholders and different incentives and different methods and everything different, and then you can just be flexible. So the reason too for the landscape approach is more cost-effective approach and provides wider participation of the stakeholders. So, of course, it is not my invention. We know like Ab Grotians is working like ages on with this approach, and they make with the colleagues this beautiful book. Who haven't seen, recommended. It is in Dutch, but you have a lot of pictures. So Miguel Steiner, in his Moorschutz catalog, this all peatlands in his catalog are in the landscape, put in the landscape and explained how it works in the landscape. Andreas Grunig in Switzerland, the same. And even Vivis Wetlands International made this for GIZ recommendation, where I placed this picture, and somebody has made it's nicely. I made a sketch how that you have to think about the landscape. Anyhow, okay, so how we plan restoration at the landscape level, in short. We have to look at the landscape and see what is wrong on the site which you look at, and also in the surrounding landscape. And this is really the law, because if you look only at the site and only block ditches, it doesn't help. You have to look from where the water is coming. Then you have to look and find out why is it wrong. What are driving factors of this? Then you have to look how do you fix it on the spots in the landscape, and how can it be effective and long term? How you can sustain this. So this is like the short overview. So look, let's look on the landscape. This is more like European landscape than Mongolian, what I drew here, but anyhow. So just for understanding, here is our peatland, and it's sitting in the landscape. And around this peatland, hell amount of things are going on, And what first you want to do, this is to do the hydrological model. And you have to do the hydrological model, not only of your peatland, but of your landscape. Include everything what is in your landscape, connecting hydrology to this model. And we are using for this purpose Mike Shee, hardly recommended, but it's not the advertisement company campaign here. So you can use any other. We are using this. We like how it works. We did one in Russia, in the Petrus project in Kaluga, one model, and we liked how it was working. We will publish it soon, I think, unfortunately in MDPI, because we have all Russian scientists there, and they want their names to be affiliated with them. Organizations, So, but just follow the ResearchGate, So we will publish it really soon. We are almost done. So then you look at the landscape after you have your hydrological model, and you know which part are hydrologically connected with your peatlands and which provide the most of water. So then you identify the problems. And for example, here we see the road, yeah, so obviously it's too few water, yeah, and on the top of the road it is flooded as always, yeah, so which causes greenhouse gas emissions from the both sides. Then you have some drained agriculture fields around, it's too dry, and then you have drainage ditches in the peatland, and that's why you have greenhouse gas emission from the peatland. You have pond, yeah, I don't like ponds, just I hate them. So, and the ponds are giving evaporation of water and greenhouse gas emissions, and down from the pond it is too dry and something too wet. And this is too dry in the drained forest, and when the river comes to the larger river in the mouth, this is flooded in the wet seasons and too dry in dry seasons, and water moving is too fast through drainage systems, so we have floods in the villages. And we have invasive species like Fallopia, for example, along the shore, which causes erosion, and many other things are causing erosions. And we have acidification of the of the water in the river, and that's why we have also, invasive species in the river. Okay. So this is how you analyze your landscape when you plan to restore peatland. So, and then you have to plan your activities, yeah, looking at this, your problems to fix them, yeah, okay. So restore spring that it gives the water. Then make drainage under the road, yeah, close the ditches in the peatland. Modify drainage system, the farmer, because we like farmers here, we don't tell them close everywhere. You can just modify, make two-step ditches or something else nice. So modify drainage system in the forest, modify tree species, yeah, so some no robinia, no pop trees, yeah, just nice plants. Yeah, so modify crops also that they don't drink so much water, remove invasive species, restore riparian wetlands. So, okay. So this is like the landscape approach in the essence. I don't know where we are. Yeah, we are too late. Yeah, we are not 35 minutes to go, but less. But anyhow, next part. Okay. When we started to work with Wetlands International Green Choice in Peru and Mongolia, we understood that we need this landscape approach. For sure. And then the condition of Green Choice was voluntary carbon market. Even if they don't go to this market, yeah, they wanted that we use the standards. Here in this complicated scheme, I try to analyze which standards we can use. And actually, yeah, so Wetlands International in its methodology with Silvestrum had even worse schemes. So mine is very nice, especially cats. So much easier. But anyhow, from this scheme, one can see that you really have to ask many questions, and always you have to apply several methodologies. And Vera doesn't allow this, yeah? In very few cases, they combine methodologies, yeah? And that's why when you want to apply the landscape level project, yeah, so then you have to look at this method, which was not approved by Vera, but developed by WI, the Wetlands International and Silvestrum, on the landscape guidelines. So if you could choose with this instrument your methodology, you go ahead. If not, you apply, for example, IUCN. Yeah, but this is not Vera. Vera doesn't apply IUCN. Yeah. So then even if you can choose your methodology, you have to look also if it's offset. If it's not offset, then you can do. If it's offset, you can do this methodology with Vista. If it's offset, then you can apply only SBI. This shows that the best way is to make the project-specific methodology as a solution. And this is what you can do. Yeah, it is allowed. You have to develop the project-specific methodology and publish it, and then prove that it works, and then you can apply it. So for our projects, for project-specific methodology, you have to describe everything like a normal methodology, applicability conditions, criteria for the boundaries. And the boundaries, it's not only physical boundaries, but which sources you are counting on and other things. So on 1st December in our ABC SDG, we will have the training on carbon markets. So you can join and then you will learn more. Here I will be short. And when we started to develop our project specific methodology, we understood that applicability conditions will be typical for the highland peatlands. And actually, I was working also in highland peatlands in Ukraine, for example, in Carpathians. Yeah, so, and I think it works. It works. It can work not only for Mongolia and Peru, but if we develop this methodology, it can really work for wider, for highlands. So, and this is 8 criteria which we formulated that should be, that this methodology could be applied. And you see this is number 5, for example, is highlands of tropical, temperate, boreal, but excluding polar, because the polar will be different. And if you want to apply the landscape approach, if you work in the areas where the land use will go on after restoration measures, it's also not actually not often in the other methodologies and Vera methodologies. So if you want to account for all physical sources of greenhouse gases, so if you involve restoration not only within the peatlands but on the catchment, the wider than peatland itself. And also, if you want to account for the reduction in these other ecosystem types in the catchment, other than peatland ecosystem types, which you are restoring, for example, you're planting forests to restore the slopes around the peatland, you can also account for forests. So this is like combined project. So this then then you can apply this methodology which we are developing, and I hope our partners and Face the Future who are consulting Green Choice will agree with us and adopt. So now we are going to see the context of our projects. So the first several words about Mongolia. We developed this map quite a long time ago, and now we are also preparing publication for the updated. We had the DB project in 2016-18 and have more detailed mapping. And we are going to publish this, but yet we are using this old map for the peatlands. All peatlands in Mongolia are, most of them, are now connected and all have been connected to permafrost. Mongolia is a highland country, yeah, so even UB, the capital, is on 1,300. So it is mostly highland. Even Gobi is also highland. It's 900, 800, but highland still. And in the largest part of Mongolia, 60% were covered with permafrost, still in line with the inventory of 71. In the latest inventory, 2016, Mongolia lost 50% of permafrost. And together with this permafrost, Mongolia lost peatlands. This is like the usual saying, but I'm saying always opposite. Because Mongolia destroyed its peatlands by overgrazing, by cutting forests, by mining, by constructing roads without drainage, and but mainly by overgrazing. Because of that, Mongolia lost this permafrost, because peatlands are protecting permafrost from thawing. And this is a tragedy, because this is very difficult to understand. This doesn't get inside the heads, not only bureaucrats, but also scientists. And this message is very significant because this is the question of national security, because permafrost is the last source of water here. Oh God, I'm looking like ghost in this. Okay, no, yes, better. So this is the large context, yeah. Then we have this publication in it was sort of the wetland book, which was published some time ago, and we have the article about the diversity of Mongolian peatlands, and I was absolutely sure that I'm describing the diversity of Mongolian peatlands as I saw them those times after the ADB project and larger inventory. And we come next slide that it is a little bit different, but anyhow. But we always have remember that Mongolian peatlands have a little bit more sources of water to feed them than there are in other regions, which you possibly all work usually. And this source is permafrost. Yeah, so the permafrost is very, very significant source of peatland. All peatlands in Mongolia are young, because the glacier was the transgression of glacier was very slow. It is like the prolongation of this Yakutian body of permafrost. In Yakutia, you know, this is the largest permafrost, is 1 kilometer depth. In Mongolia, permafrost is 50, 25 meters, so not so deep, but this is like one body coming from Siberia. And this the glaciers were losing leaving the area very slowly, and that's why the peatlands are very young. Yeah, the most of peatlands are only 2,000 years old, and they are shallow, like 1 meter, like they're originally 1.5. Only in taiga zone we found like 3 meters peatlands, but the forest steppe zone has shallow peatlands. So, and if you look at this graph on the left, which was closed like the other graphs before, so this is like the story of degradation of Mongolian peatland. So usually there's peatlands in the valleys and on the slopes. In the slopes there's forested shallow peatlands. And this, when you start with the slopes, because nobody wants to go to peatland, yeah, for land use, this is difficult. Yeah. So at first they are working on slopes, yeah. So they are destroying slopes. There's a fire, there's a cattle, and this and that. So and then when the slope is dry, this is the peatlands in the valley start to be more watered. When they are more watered, yeah, so they actually give more warmth to permafrost, and permafrost start to migrate, yeah, to go away. And under permafrost, you have the carbonated, and in good case, carbonated, in the worst case, salty bedrock, which after the permafrost is gone, which start to come up. Yeah, and so you have carbonated or even salty peat. And then you have very fast peat degradation because carbonated or salty peat is degrading very fast. Yeah. So, and actually, when I was describing these types, some of them were like the secondary types already, because actually all peatlands should have permafrost originally, but now they don't. Yeah. So, and when we speak about the model, where are the greenhouse gas sources in the story? Yeah, when we look at the peatland, we see the natural peatland. You have the permafrost, which is like keeping the water. Yeah, the water level is on the top of the active layer. In the winter time, the permafrost is coming up to the first surface. In summer, it gives active layer. And this active layer consists of very wet peat saturated with water peat on the surface of permafrost, and the just wet peat area. And also you can time to time have surface water. And this is the typical mistake of the peatland scientists. They don't go deeper. Yeah, they say, oh, surface water, the water level is 0. No, yeah, there's 2 water levels, 2. One on the surface, and the other, when you start to dig, you understand that here is no water. Yeah, it's no water level. This is just the wet peat. Yeah. So then, when the permafrost is going down, the active layer is growing, and it's growing so much that even never gets back to the winter freeze. So then peat start, or at first peat start degrading because of the several dry years and the overgrazing, and then the water level migrates down. Sometimes it can stand upper, but usually it migrates together with the permafrost level. And then you have here the decomposed peat, which is now turf. Yeah, this is the meadow soil. Then very decomposed peat, less decomposed peat, and this is all becomes the sources of greenhouse gases, yeah, because the dry peat, also because you have a lot of dung and manure, yeah, so you have this NTO, and you have methane from the water level and from the permafrost sowing. If you already are without permafrost, but still wet peatland, yeah, so the story is a little bit different, and I will not stay so long on that, and the sources also are a little bit different, but anyhow, all this is the phenomenological model. We have to work hard to put this model in the real life, and I hope that we can do this together with Professor Drosler and his team, because we started already these measurements and setting up the experiment there in Mongolia. Okay, so for your context, so you can see this is the like good peatland, which people think that it's good, but in reality, all these areas where the water is standing, and this is absorbing permafrost. Permafrost is there, yes, and this is already like degrading parts. And here is the last stage. You see, it was peatland, and this is, you can also clearly see it because of these parts. And this is also the old hammocks, when you cut them, you can see this. It was peat, yeah, but it is all covered with carbonates. So, and this is the very fast development for Mongolia. So, and our sites, which we have in the project with Wetlands International, are to cover all diversity of these situations. Yeah. So we have the D situation, we have C situation, and the quite good forest with peat and sphagnum, very beautiful. Yeah, still, this is for protection, the avoidance part of the carbon project. So we have the area where you have all the three, this DCA, where you have the initial phase of degradation, but still wet, peatland without permafrost. Yeah, and you have, we have all the degraded things. Okay, Hunin, Chinhao Poetry. If I can learn it, I will stop saying Hunin, because Hunin they don't like. Okay, this is lake in Peru. Sorry, I forgot to put the map of Peru to show where it is, but it is Andes, and this is more north than Titicaca Lake, and this lake is smaller as Titicaca, but something like this, yeah. So, and this is the highland, this is 4,000 meters. The hills around are even higher. So this is the lake, and this is for me, it is just disaster and tragedy. I don't know. My heart is broken against this lake. So we have here mine, which is transporting all heavy metals to the lake. We have the dam, hydropower dam, which is opening and closing this dam when it wants and wherever. We have highway and railway on the one side, which is dividing, is isolating this lake from the sources from the hills. We have a road here also, which is not so isolating, because the road is like not so well done, but still we have drainage by ditches, grazing, and pit cut here on the areas which was partly on the upper part Bofedales. We have absolutely total drainage of all Bofedales and the highlands by the terraced ditches, which have been, I don't know why and how it happens, but this methodology was used, they told to bring back water to Bofedales, but it is absolutely not. Yeah, it is draining them. And I think that it is not so. It is just to replace Bofedales with the grasslands, because when you put these terraced ditches there, then grasslands are coming instead of Bofedales. Yeah, and possibly this is what the herders wanted. Yeah? They wanted just grass instead of the Bofedales. This is type of peatland which is from the cushions, cushion plant. This is not much to eat. Okay, so then here everything is plowed. Yeah, so all Bofedales are plowed, the arable lands, and here they are burning totoralis because also to open the pastures. Okay, so this is the drone image for you, just to have impression. Yeah, so this is here is a lake. This is the totoralis part, and this is former Bofedales and marshes, which are covered with channels. All rivers are channelized. So this is the mountains and the road. And here you can see that the mountains, all slopes are plowed. So this is the agriculture. And also this is very interesting site because it has extremely deep peat. Yeah, the peat was found at the 80 meters there. So it is actually, but it is not a really pure peat. it is the peat which is interchanged with the the mostly organic rich but carbonated materials. So this is the hunin was used as by a lot of paleoecologists and geologists as a study point. There's a lot of publications about the deep geology of hunin. We made ourselves only this very surface core, and you can see that even in the surface core you have these parts with the carbonates. And why it is significant, I will show you now. Yeah, because the carbonated peat, as we learned already from Mongolia, is a source of very active source of greenhouse gases. Yeah, so just for your understanding, we don't speak anymore about the same like in Mongolia. We don't speak about revetting and drainage, as always we are speaking with the peatlands. Yeah, we are speaking itself something else. We are speaking how to get rid of carbonates. You know, how to stop how to redistribute water in Mongolia to stop the permafrost thaw, yeah, because of this overwatering. And here we also are looking how to stop this process when the lake is depositing these carbonates on the top of the peat, and peat is degrading. And also we have these fires, yeah. And when you have the fires, each next fire, yeah, it eats a little bit of peat, and then we have the subsidence, and the water is also coming in, and also we have this dam which is flooding and all the things, disaster. Okay, so and also we have this. The channels, yeah, which they do, and the water through the channels is going to the other areas. Yeah, so and this is how we see from the plan that the carbonates is moving, and then we have road here, which is isolating the springs, which are anyhow already almost dry, from the lake, and lake doesn't get fresh water. So these carbonates are not mixed with fresh water. Yeah, so this is like this. Okay, so and we make this such a low resolution landscape map for the main wetland types to plan. This is the old map. Now we have the other borders of project sites, but just to demonstrate your logic that we wanted to cover different types of land uses and different types also of communities. So we are here, oh my God. Okay, how we set up a physical project border then when we want the landscape. Now I start to go faster. So first of all, our task is to delineate the catchment if we work with peatland. And then inside the catchment, we have to delineate the area with the potential peatland, which we know from some features if you have experience with peat. Then we have to map surface evidence of water sources. Yeah, we know that there are other water sources like precipitation and groundwater. But if we see that there are evidence that the groundwater is declining here, or there is some other sources of water like long-lasting glacials or whatever, so we have to map them. Then we put the transects, and we find the border of peat, and including degraded peat, yeah, because possibly we can restore it, yeah. So, and if you have discrete peatlands, you just make the cluster, and this will be your main project site for your carbon project reporting. So then you plan activities. Yeah, so usually your activities are focused also on the source of the water which you mapped before. And you plan these activities and you make the other border, and this is like the buffer zone. And this buffer zone border like is the supporting landscape. And here you also plan activities. So you include it in the project reporting. And if your activities are eligible for the carbon reporting, it is reducing greenhouse gases, or it is avoidance, or it is sink, so removal. So then you can include it also in the reporting and the project. Yeah, so I don't tell that always your border will be catchment. No, in this case, for example, you see this is the PEAT border and some areas which are responsible for water. So, examples from Mongolia. What is significant in the story with Mongolia, that there's a lot of dry peat. And the law is not law of Mongolia, but law which I declared, don't fence dry area. Because why we need to fence? Usually, you know, in other countries, we fence to keep the animals. But here, no way. Animals are everywhere. You have to fence something what you want to protect against animals. So we started fencing. But we started fencing only where are the springs, where are permanent source of water. And it was May 2017. Here you see this horrible dry thing because it's dam. We fenced the dam that animals don't destroy it. So these are our monitoring plots, and this is how was it all looking very badly. And in 2018, you see the fencing, you just remove the animals, nothing more, you know, you get already nice grass. But as I say, it is very dangerous to fence dry area because the grass comes and the grass is decomposing the remaining peat very fast. So you just get the mineral then. Okay, so this is what we do in 2019. Lynn Rochefort helped us with the monitoring. Yeah, Shane Grundy advised us. So we were moving, and then it was COVID. And 2022 we visited the area. So and we saw that due to this areas, the water started to go to the adjusting the areas. So, and we decided, yes, we can do here the larger project, we can fence further, yeah. And luckily, you see, this is fenced area, this is not fenced. This is still wet, yeah. Here also wet, but not fenced and no chance, yeah, for the restoration. So, and then we got, so this, you can see the structure even from the satellite, it's in Google. So, and then we got this proposal from Green Choice, and we started, the first activity we started exactly here. This May 2025, we fenced larger area, like 6 hectares. And also Shane again came to help us from Australia, and he recommended us to put these structures there. This is from such a very strong foliage. Yeah? This you can see it, how it works. So, and this is what we got already in July. Yeah, July. This is July. Yeah. So you see, the area, so it's already larger area for restoration, but it's still, we have to restore the adjacent step. And I can't show you this in this picture. This is no drone image good enough. But from this side of the area is the step which is also fenced. because we have to restore this step, because otherwise this degraded step is blowing and blowing carbonates on the top of the peat. So this is how we, like, landscape-wise, restoring. Okay, Lake Hunin, I will show you some example just with Totora. Yeah, so what we actually, yeah, this is this area, and you see we propose here constructed wetland, actually, which is red, to keep the water, to clean the water from the carbonates, which is coming from the lake. It is very expensive. Green Choice is not going for that, but it is our, like, strategic thinking. Yeah. So now we just put it and say, okay, guys, this is a strategy. We can now make the smaller steps, but this constructed wetland proposal we leave. How it works? If you put here in the ditch, this is a long ditch. If you put here the constructed wetland, like the Chinese are doing, you know, to clean the. So then we stop this carbonate, we stop fires, we introduce the mowing from the fires, and then the original short sedge marshes will come back. Now, these short sedge marshes are covered very rapidly by Totora, by this Chenoplectus californicus, like reed, you know. And this is our, like, proposal, and also to restore, of course, the springs and to make the input of fresh water to this area. So this is our project scenario, and then later we can stop cutting, yeah, and this will be natural, balanced community. Okay, so how we make the carbon model? The carbon model we are making for this, in this methodology, by the mapping. So this is very fast. So we at first we map reference landscape and think how the natural communities should look like. For example, like this. And we know for them, or calculate, or model, or from literature, or measure emission factors, the habitat index for biodiversity, and other ecosystem services index, for example, the water and productivity, the plants, eatable plants, whatever. Yeah. So, and we make this. Yeah. So we imagine that it is the natural landscape. No one of our landscape is natural, but anyhow. Then we put on the use, and we got the combination of the changed landscapes with their indexes. Yeah, this is a good task for the artificial intelligence. So then we develop there's like business as usual. If we just leave everything like it is, the land uses are developing, expanding, and covering more and more areas. Then we make the restoration scenario. Yeah, so we change these areas to semi-natural, or like on the way for restoration. So we restore some of ecosystem functions. Yeah, and then we just compare the area of the polygons which have this or that indexes. So this is the principle of our monitoring. So we make all monitoring based on the mapping. Okay, so for example, here in Hunin, we have these two areas near the lake where this Totora problem is. Yeah, so we make the map, and then we make the predicting mapping based on our transect work and our field works. What will be if we leave it like this, like baseline, and what will be when we introduce our like project scenario. Yeah, and then we are like calculating the emission factors for this. Yeah, and this is our preliminary calculation for the first phase of the project. Now we didn't finalize yet, yes, our mapping and calculating for Hunin, but it was looking quite well. Yeah, for all 5 our size. So for other, we don't have time. So if you want to know more about the model to measure the emission factors, about how we organize monitoring, you have to invite me once more time. Okay, your questions.
Thank you very much.